What's up guys, Blur here, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, we have all sorts of gaming related content from game reviews to hardware reviews, so if you like that type of stuff, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and hit that little bell icon so you get notified anytime a new video comes out. So in today's video, we're going to be doing a first look at Breath of the Wild 2... What is it? Gods and Monsters? Immortals Fenix Rising. I wanted to give you my thoughts on this new IP from Ubisoft. So, if you're ready, so am I. Let's get into it. After years of regurgitating the same IPs over and over again, in June 2019, Ubisoft revealed a new IP by the team who worked on Assassins Creed Odyssey, Gods and Monsters. This was a colorful action-adventure set in a Greek mythology world that took more than one piece of inspiration from Breath of the Wild. With Breath of the Wild having been literally my favorite game of all time, I was super excited to see a AAA title come out of Ubisoft paying homage to the game. Now, many people can and will correctly argue that Breath of the Wild actually took a lot of inspiration from Ubisoft and other Western open world games, from the climbing of Ubi Towers to even things like parry and perfect dodge. Nintendo simply refined the formula to a beautiful shine and added a ton of charm, physics puzzles, and fresh new ideas on top. I actually always wondered why I never saw too mmany more games attempt to replicate the success of Breath of the Wild. It does look like, however, these games are starting to trickle out. You have games like, well, Immortals Fenix Rising and Genshin Impact starting to come out. Immortals Fenix Rising was renamed after a trademark dispute with Monster Energy drink, and it's now Ubisoft's turn to attempt to capture the magic of one of the greatest games of all time. And spoiler alert, they did a pretty damn good job. I've been so distracted by the gameplay and exploration that the majority of my run has been spent finding weapons, armor, completing shrine-like pits of Tartarus, and solving world puzzles to gain materials to upgrade my various abilities and stats. With that being said, I can talk to the opening of the game. This will also keep everything fairly spoiler-free.
Beautiful Hera, Mother Divine, wisest Athena, mighty Poseidon, the Earth-shaker, Zeus Artemis, with her deadly aim set to pierce into the heart of a hummingbird, painted pigs, all of them, I see you there. Come closer.
The beginning of the game has Typhon, son of Gaia, who attempted to overthrow Zeus, being released from his prison in the pit of Tartarus, where he was sealed after his failure. Upon his release, he killed a ton of gods, transformed some of the bigger ones into, well, other things, and changed all of the mortals to stone, turned all demigods into shells of themselves to serve his rule. The game has Zeus going to Prometheus for assistance to defeat Typhon. However, Prometheus states that there's only one mortal that can save them: Phoenix, brother of a warrior, and the one and only mortal not turned to stone. With a little bit of help, Phoenix has to restore all of the gods back to their former selves and lead the charge against Typhon. This is actually a really cool backdrop for the story, which takes you from location to location as you learn more about the gods, their personalities, and backstory. The story is told through the narration and banter between Prometheus and Zeus, which is hilarious at best and terribly cringy at worst. I personally enjoyed the humor in the game. As dark as the backdrop is and dire the stakes, the game never really takes itself too seriously.
Well, that's the end of Phoenix. Perfectly passable storytelling. I won't lie, there were moments that dragged, but you really got me with that ending. Now, let's settle up. Time for you to help me against Typhon.
The jokes can have some real impact. I actually had one of the soldiers ask me if my weapons keep breaking or is he doing something wrong, which had me on the floor as a clear reference to the game that it draws so much inspiration from. I will say, however, the acting and delivering of the characters could be improved. Most of the characters that aren't like Zeus and Prometheus are a little stiff in their delivery, but if you're used to older adventure games like of the N64 and PlayStation era, this will actually feel oddly nostalgic.
The mysteries I have to offer are as infinite as the grains of sand scattered across the floor. What is your question?
This is definitely an interesting story and a great backdrop to keep things moving along. So let's discuss the graphics and art style. This game is a very colorful, cartoony open world. Many people will point out how similar it looks to Breath of the Wild, but keep in mind that Breath of the Wild did not invent cel-shaded open world. Now, what I will say, however, is that the world and ambiance is hard to deny that the game definitely inspires comparison. From the grassy fields all the way down to the red ashlit skies, they look almost directly taken from Breath of the Wild. Now, this isn't a knock, as the game in which Fenix Rising takes inspiration from is extremely gorgeous. I'm playing this game on my PC with a Ryzen 3950X and my Nvidia RTX 3090. So needless to say, the game played on max settings 4K with no issues to frame rate. I have not been able to play Breath of the Wild in 4K, so there's that. I will say, however, that I feel like the environment still looked nicer in Breath of the Wild, albeit a lot less sharp, with a lot less particle effects in the back. I feel like the colors used in the general art style is nicer, but I say with Fenix Rising, you're probably about 85 to 90% there. The draw distance in this game is awe-inspiring. If you can get high enough to take a look, you can really see everything from each corner of the map. And it really gives you an appreciation for the size of this world. Character design looks really similar to that you'll find in like Fortnite. This decision is interesting as the character actually contrasts against the colorful backdrop of the world. A lot of the charm in Breath of the Wild can actually be attributed to the smooth expressions shown by the characters in the games and, kind of just reacting to game events. Here I find that Fenix Rising falls a little short, although the attempts are there to really make the expressions and acting feel similar. I personally feel like the movements are a little clunky, and this makes the delivery of the story a little less immersive, but I'm gonna be honest, this is a bit more of a nitpick than a major con. Ultimately, this is a beautiful world, and one that really, until you play it, you won't be able to fully appreciate. Now, gameplay is really where Fenix Rising starts to break apart from Breath of the Wild and other games like it. Yes, there's horse taming, sword and bow play, a magnesis-like ability, and gliding to destinations, but there's enough variations to the gameplay to keep the rest of the game feeling fresh and unique. Starting with the combat, you have 3 tools of destruction at your disposal. You have swords, which are your light attacks and help you fill your stamina in battle. You also have axes, which are your heavy attacks and build a stagger meter, which once filled will stagger enemies, giving you an opportunity to do some real damage. And then you also have bows, and those are obviously for your long distance poking and aerial enemies. Each weapon feels distinct and needs to be switched up depending on the enemy you're facing. And yes, the game has a stamina bar, which is used similarly to Breath of the Wild and can be upgraded through completing Pits of Tartarus mini dungeons. In combat, the stamina is used to perform the various combat abilities at your disposal, all of which have their uses, from juggling enemies in the air to building stagger on your enemies. Combat is fast and fluid and honestly a lot of fun. There is no blocking option, instead opting for perfect dodges that slow down time and parries that open up defenses. I'm personally more of a perfect dodge type of player in really any game that I play, just because a mistimed dodge will at least get you out of harm's way, where missing a parry will see you punished. punished. Also, something to keep in mind, and I don't think I've seen anybody mention this when they're talking about the combat, your abilities have invisibility frames, so you can actually use that to both damage and defend yourself at the same time, especially during unblockable attacks of your enemies. In combat, this game feels much more like Assassin's Creed Odyssey than it does Breath of the Wild, which is actually a really good thing. I actually really enjoy the combat system in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Just as with Breath of the Wild, exploration is a major component of the gameplay. You can climb anything, jump from high places, and glide to far off destinations. All of these actions are only restricted by your stamina meter, and just like Breath of the Wild, the exploration is a ton of fun. The world is a good size, but a far cry from other Ubisoft titles, which in my honest opinion is actually really good. This world feels manageable, even more so once you tame your first horse. You can go anywhere in the game world after the initial title sequence, and the map is compact and littered with things to do. Which brings us to the Farsight system. This is the worst part of exploration. This system functions similar to your bird companion in Assassin's Creed games. You get to a high place, or, well, not really, since Farsight can see through walls and barriers. Look around until the controller starts to vibrate, and then you hit the right trigger to reveal the point. This takes all of the worst parts of Breath of the Wild and Assassin's Creed exploration and mashes them into one system. First of all, it's not fun. It's not fun to look around and try to point somewhere until the vibration gets hard. I'm sure there's a joke somewhere in there. It really kind of kills the excitement of exploration. Like, okay, so cool. You see a cool thing in the distance, right? You ping it to see if anything's there. Nothing's over there? Alright, never mind. I guess I'm not walking over there, right? The system is not limited to line of sight, so it just makes exploration in general kind of pointless, as you really kind of know what to expect out of an area before you even walk there, since you've likely pinged it from a tall mountain. This also ends up making the map look a bit of a cluttered mess by the time you're done kind of pinging everything around you, and the navigation's a little confusing, but honestly, once you highlight a point, at the very least, the marker tells you the general direction in which you want to go and the distance between you and the marker. As you explore, you're going to find pits of Tartarus. These are the shrine-like equivalents of Breath of the Wild, and upon completion will reward you with a lightning bolt from Zeus that you use to upgrade your stamina. These pits have platforming, puzzle solving, and combat arenas, but rarely all of them at once. I found these areas to be very well designed, albeit a little boring to look at aesthetically. The environment should have been mixed up to provide more variety, which is actually a criticism I had of Breath of the Wild. The puzzles are well designed and really stumped me in a few instances. Now, each pit has a chest and it has the lightning bolt. The lightning bolt is what you're going for. It's kind of like your end of the shrine. You also have a chest that if you do a couple extra steps, you could definitely unlock. One thing to note is that you can go into these pits without yet unlocking the ability to get the chest that each pit has. The game normally does a good job of letting you know, however, when you don't have the right ability, but I did spend an hour trying to get a chest that I couldn't since I didn't have the ability, and the game only told me when I left a shrine and came back in. Weapons and armor are scattered throughout the world. Both weapons and armors provide combat bonuses, but are technically not stronger or weaker than the weapon or armor piece you had before it. The reason for this is that damage and defense is dictated by the weapon type and not the individual weapon. I also find that the variety of weapon types is lacking, as you can only get swords, axes, and bows, and each has their own designated role and attack combos. This means that attaining a new piece of gear does not substantially alter gameplay. Each piece of gear has 2 bonuses, however the second bonus is only unlocked after upgrading the specific slot to level 4. The combat bonuses, however, are nowhere near anything that's going to switch up how you approach combat. All of this streamlines the gear progression and makes it more approachable, however, while simultaneously making it less exciting to acquire a new piece of gear. Each piece of gear does, however, have his own distinct look, and once unlocked, the skin can be applied to any item within the same slot. This makes it so that if you like the bonuses of one sword but like the look of another, you don't need a compromise. weapons. The game is, however, not lacking in things that you can upgrade. You can upgrade everything from weapons and armor, health and stamina, potions and abilities. What I like here is that it's all very streamlined, and the upgrade system feels very similar to Assassin's Creed Odyssey. There are materials and currencies that are used for each upgrade type that are naturally found during progression. Each time you find an armor piece or a weapon chest, the piece of gear also comes with a small amount of material necessary to upgrade said item slot. This makes exploring the world and attaining new weapons and armor still rewarding, even if the bonuses of the individual pieces of gear isn't necessarily amazing. There's also challenges that the game throws at you to find additional ways to attain materials to upgrade. Each upgrade feels worthwhile and really makes progression in this game feel natural. Quickly talking about microtransactions, they're here, but at least they're only cosmetic. The game does a pretty good job of being able to customize your character's looks, including changing the physicality of your character at any time. This includes gender. And so because of this, I never really felt the need to spend money on cosmetics. The store is there if you want it, but most of you will likely skip it in this full price title. To wrap things up, Immortals Fenix Rising is an amazing title from Ubisoft, mirroring the success of one of the best and most beloved games of all time, while throwing in its own little twist on the formula. The story and humor drives the game forward, and the game is a refreshing change of pace from all of the dark, gritty games that tend to demand our attention. Immortals Fenix Rising is an amazing entrant into the series and a wonderful new IP from Ubisoft. If you like Breath of the Wild or any of the modern Assassin's Creed games, you'll love this game. Now, I want to hear from you guys. Are you guys going to pick up this game? What do you think of the art style? Is it too close to Breath of the Wild? Leave your comments down below. Guys, if you like this video, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and go ahead and hit that little bell icon so you get notified anytime a new video comes out. Also, share with your friends and family. This is a small YouTube channel, and it would go a long way for us to grow the community. I stream every Tuesday and Thursday on 7 p.m. Eastern on DLive, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, so if you have a moment, come check us out over there. And with all of that being said, thank you guys very much for sticking around, and we'll catch you in the next one. Take it easy.